There are currently 8 NHL teams that do not have an NHL captain. In today's video, I'm going to tell you who I would select as the next captain of these franchises, and that's coming up next. So welcome back here to Top Shelf Hockey. Now, we did a video similar to this last August in preparation for the 18-19 season, as there were a number of captain vacancies around the NHL as of then. A number of those vacancies were filled. Some of them are still empty, and we have a few new ones as well due to trades and free agent signings from around the NHL. So like I said, right now there are 8 NHL teams without a captain, and I'm going to give you my selections on who I would put in that role. And I'd love to know what you think down in the comments, so make sure you leave a comment and let me know who you would select for these teams as their next captain. Now let's jump in here first with the Detroit Red Wings. Now, former captain Henrik Zetterberg unfortunately had his career come to an end due to that back injury. He just was not able to keep going and fulfill the remainder of his contract. If you take a look around their team, obviously they're going through a bit of a rebuilding phase right now. They have a lot of younger players. They still have a few veterans kicking around, but in my opinion, with the way the league is going right now, obviously it's a young man's game. There's a lot of younger captains around the NHL, and I think when they're picking a player like this, you want somebody who can lead by example. You want somebody who can be fairly productive, and also somebody who's going to be with the franchise hopefully for the long haul, because it's certainly not something that you want to be changing captains ideally very frequently. Many of the great ones have been captains for their teams for many years. So with all that said, I think the best selection for the next captain of the Red Wings would be forward Dylan Larkin. Now, Dylan Larkin's a player who was drafted and developed by the Red Wings. He's really turning out to be a really solid top-line player for them. He leads by example. He's got good character. He's got an excellent reputation around the league. He seems to lead well by example on the ice, and it seems to be well liked and well respected in the locker room. So for me, Dylan Larkin should be the next captain for the Detroit Red Wings. Next up, we have the Vancouver Canucks. Now, the Canucks were a team we discussed last year, and that vacancy has not been filled here as of yet. At that point, I had selected Bo Horvat to be the next captain of the Vancouver Canucks, and today I'm sticking by that. I think Bo Horvat is a solid second-line player. He's turned out to be a really solid center iceman for the Canucks. He certainly leads by example on the ice. He's well-respected. He works hard. He's productive. And I think when you think of captain material, to me, this was a no-brainer. He just sticks out as that leader on that team. Now, of course, the Canucks have some great other offensive forwards. I mean, Pettersson had an awesome year last year as a rookie, and he's only going to continue to get better and to grow as he, turns into likely one of the league's top players. You got Brock Besser, who's obviously still needs a contract at this point, but still, he's got a bright future ahead. He can be a top goal scorer for them for a long time. They got Quinn Hughes in the back end, but for me, I think Bo Horvat's just got a little bit more experience than them. I just think he's a little bit better equipped as well to kind of handle the media and all the questions that comes with being a captain. Takes the pressure off the guys that are a little bit younger and still developing into top stars, and I think he's an excellent choice as the next captain here of the Vancouver Canucks. Next up, we've got the Vegas Golden Knights. Now, so far in their couple years of NHL action as the 31st franchise, they've yet to name a team captain, of course, so they were in last year's video as well. And at that point, I had selected defenseman Derek Englund. Now, the reason I went with that at the time is, of course, during Vegas' first season, there was obviously a tragedy in Vegas. He really stood up as somebody who had lived locally in the area for a time before the franchise came to be. He really made a great speech and just really appeared to show a lot of leadership qualities. And based on their opening roster for their first season, I thought he was the best selection. Now, not to say that he wouldn't be at this time, but he's certainly at the end of his career. He just signed a one-year contract. Likely won't be there too much longer. For the sake of having continuity in place, and with all the other moves that Vegas has made, they have a lot of different players now compared to a year ago. I would go with forward Mark Stone. Mark Stone, to me, is your prototypical captain material, and I was saying before that if he were to stay in Ottawa and sign a long-term extension, that he was their absolute no-brainer option to be the next captain after Erik Karlsson had departed the franchise. But Mark Stone is now part of the Vegas Golden Knights. He just inked an 8-year contract with mega big bucks here, so he's going to be sticking around there for a long time. He certainly leads by example on and off the ice. He's a hard worker. You can tell he's a great team player as well, well respected around the league, well liked around the team and in the room. He's incredibly productive. He's one of the most underrated wingers in the game, in my opinion. He's finally starting to get some recognition as well for being a finalist for the Selke Trophy this past season, which goes to show he's got a strong 200-foot game. He's really evolved a lot during his time as an NHL player. And to me, Mark Stone should be the first ever captain in Vegas Golden Knights history and likely hold that post for a long time to come. Now next up we've got the Carolina Hurricanes, and it's actually not 100% guarantee here that there's going to be a vacancy, but as of right now, their former captain Justin Williams remains unsigned, and it's not totally clear yet if he's going to be playing for the upcoming season and take on that role once again for the Canes, or if he's going to call it a career and somebody else will have to take over. So there might not be an 8th vacancy here, but as of today, when I'm recording this video, he's not signed, so we have to say that right now at least they don't have a captain. So assuming that Justin Williams does not return, who should take over for him as the next captain of the Carolina Hurricanes? Now, prior to Williams taking over, they had co-captains with Jordan Staal and Justin Falk, and obviously they decided to go in a different direction. Out of the two, Falk likely won't be there longer term in my opinion, but Jordan Staal is the kind of player you do think of. I think he is captain material and should be considered. The other option they have would be to go to a younger player who's going to be the face of the franchise and certainly lead by example on the ice, and if that's going to be the case, I would go with Sebastian Aho. Sebastian Aho is a terrific young player, evolved last year to be one of the most productive players in the NHL. Just inked a 5-year contract after that offer sheet that came from Montreal. I think many of us will agree that the offer sheet was a little bit on the weak side. It was front-loaded, very heavy on the bonuses, which Montreal obviously figured Carolina might not be fond of and might walk away from, but obviously they choked her down. They matched the offer, and now he's under contract with them for 5 years, and obviously that very well could be a contract that sets the tone for many of the other restricted free agents here around the NHL. But Sebastian Aho, to me, leads by example on the ice. He's very productive and should certainly be considered to be the next captain and future leader here of the Hurricanes. Assuming Justin Williams does come back and actually return to the NHL and sign with Carolina, like some still expect could very well be a decent possibility, then there would be no reason to take that seat from him. You let him ride it out, gives Aho a little bit more time, gets more experience under his belt before he can take over. But should Williams depart, for me, I would go with Sebastian Aho, and I would probably give Jordan Staal an A on his jersey to kind of help him lead. Let Jordan Staal help him evolve into a leader, but let him be more of a behind-the-scenes, secondary type of leadership role on the team, and let Aho kind of take the reins. But should Williams return, no doubt he remains captain. Next up, we've got the New York Rangers, who have been without a captain since they traded defenseman Ryan McDonagh. They've yet to name a new captain since that deal went down, and this very well could be the season that they decide to make that move. Now, of all the teams that have a vacancy, this might be a team that wouldn't be completely shocked if they win another year without a captain. Looking at the roster, there's certainly some options there. They're starting to gain a lot of younger players. They've made some decent big moves during free agency. They brought in Artemi Panarin, which was a huge signing. Of course, they drafted Kakko, number 2 overall, who's going to be a huge player for them as well. They still have some veterans around the team, like a Chris Kreider, who I would certainly consider to be a decent option for captain, but there's a lot of question marks around whether or not he actually remains with the club longer term. I actually saw some reports today indicating some comments from John Davidson, the new president, as well as Jeff Gordon, indicating that they're not really sure about a new contract as of yet and how things are going to go with him longer term. So therefore, I probably wouldn't pick Kreider just based on his likely departure from the team in the short term. At least it appears that way. If he were to sign a longer-term contract extension and remain with the franchise, I do think that he would be heavily considered. But ultimately, if that's not the case, and it appears as though he's probably not sticking around too long, I would probably go with a guy like Mika Zibanejad, who's really evolved into a strong player for them. Certainly evolved into being their top center iceman, had career highs last year, and has really proved to be a huge member of that franchise. Although I must say, I don't really think of Zibanejad as being your prototypical captain. I know back in his early days, at least, there were certainly some question marks around his work ethic. And although that appears to be, in the past and gone by the wayside here, I'm just not sure that he would be the best choice for captain. But based on the current roster, if I had to pick somebody today, it would be Zibanejad. But personally, I would not be shocked to see the Rangers maybe hold on a little bit longer and kind of see how this roster evolves. Maybe one of their other younger players really steps up and becomes that leader here in the short term. Next up, we have the San Jose Sharks, who lost captain Joe Pavelski, who departed via free agency to sign a 3-year contract with the Dallas Stars after failing to come to terms with the Sharks to finish things out likely for his career. Now, the Sharks are in a situation where they have a lot of great leaders around that room. They have a wealth of riches when it comes to leadership, so there's certainly no short order of options. Now, right now, Joe Thornton remains unsigned. Of course, he's a previous captain. There's been a lot of talk about Patrick Marleau returning on a short-term, cheap contract as well, but that has not officially happened. And considering where they're at in their stages of the career, even if either of them were there, I don't really think they should be captain at this point. They can certainly be supporting members of the team, play a leadership role. They don't necessarily need the C or even an A on their jersey in order to do that. Obviously, Pavelski had taken over a while back and was a great captain for them. So for me, I would likely go with forward Logan Couture. Now, he's 30 years old. He certainly leads by example on the ice. Well-respected member in that room. Certainly very productive player as well. You have other guys like Brent Burns and Erik Karlsson who likely could wear the A's on the team and be the supporting leadership guys. Of course, Karlsson's a former captain in Ottawa, and honestly, based on his tenure as captain of Ottawa, I'm not really sure that he was really going to be a great captain for San Jose. I don't think that would be the role that would fit him best, even though he just signed a long-term contract. So obviously you would have that. You would not have the issues of him likely leaving anytime soon. But I'm just not sure that would be a fit. He hasn't been there very long, where a lot of these other guys were kind of born and bred in San Jose. Even though Brent Burns wasn't originally drafted there, he's played there a long time. So I'd probably pick Burns over Karlsson if I had to. But ultimately, I think Couture is the more likely option here. He could be the face of that franchise for the remainder of his career. Like I said, he's signed longer term as well. Very productive, was huge in the playoffs for them. And I think being surrounded by guys like Burns and Karlsson, assuming Thornton comes back, even Marleau, there's all kinds of great guys there that can help him evolve into an even better leader over time while they're there. And then you can have a leadership core of Couture, Burns, Karlsson. You still got Vlasic, who's been there a long time as well as some other guys. So to me, Logan Couture should be the next captain of the San Jose Sharks. Next up, we have the Ottawa Senators, who have not had a captain for over a year now after trading Captain Erik Karlsson to the Sharks, who we just discussed here. At one point last year, it was easy and obvious that the next captain was likely going to be Mark Stone, or at least I thought, and many other people thought. He said all the right things about wanting to stay, and I honestly, truly do believe that Mark Stone was interested and willing to sign a long-term extension in Ottawa. I just think they couldn't come to terms on the contract agreement. Ultimately, they allowed him to negotiate a little bit with Vegas before the trade, and I think the big sticking point there was to a little bit money, but mostly the bonuses. The contract that Mark Stone was given by the Knights was very, very bonus rich, and I don't think that Eugene Melnyk and the Senators were willing to go down that road, which ultimately is what cost a lot of these guys to be traded, because it's not even so much the money as it is the structure. To a degree, money might have been a little bit of the problem, but I think the bonus structure was a way bigger part of the issue here. But unfortunately for Ottawa, they've lost a lot of their great leaders lately, and right now they have a very, very young team. And even though I think they have a bright future, I think they're still going to go through some more dark days before things really turn around and get better. I think they're likely going to be in line for another high draft pick this coming year, as I don't expect them to finish too high in the standings. Although with all that youth and all that optimism amongst the young guys trying to prove themselves, maybe they'll surprise a few this year and finish a little higher than they expect. But to be honest, I don't see them being anywhere near the playoffs. And if you're not going to be near the playoffs, you might as well be closer to the bottom, really, to get yourself the best pick possible. Not that I, kind of promote tanking, but essentially, I don't think they're going to be able to finish too much higher than, the bottom 2 or 3 teams anyway. But with all that said, based on their current roster, I honestly think that the Senators probably should wait, and it probably wouldn't be and something that they have to do this year. But in my opinion, the future captain of the Senators should be Brady Tkachuk. I mean, he's only played one season with this team. He's a great leader already. Leads on the ice with his hard work, determination, his offensive production. He's a real good teammate on the bench. You can see him cheering the other guys on. He certainly has a real passion for the game. Plays hard, and to me, he is prototypical captain material. So I think he'd be an awesome choice. I just think they should give him a little bit more time before they put that responsibility and slap that C on his jersey. He's only going into year 2. Perhaps as he goes into year 3 of his entry-level deal and is going to be needing a contract extension, assuming that they open the bank up a little bit and pay him, maybe that could be the transitioning point that he goes out of his entry-level deal into his extension as captain. I'd probably wait a little while longer. I don't think there's any need to rush, but to me, Tkachuk should be the next captain of the Senators. And the 8th team we're going to discuss today that's captainless and has been for some time is the Toronto Maple Leafs. Obviously, they were a team we discussed last year as well, and they have yet to name a captain and change things. They've been without a captain for a number of years now, and it seems like they've been in no hurry to make that replacement. But if you look around their roster, they do have some players that are proven to be good leaders in different capacities before. Of course, you got John Tavares, who was captain a long time with the Islanders. He's certainly part of the leadership core. You got Austin Matthews in the conversation. I know Mitch Marner I think he should be in the conversation. I know we've heard a lot about that. Morgan Riley certainly leads by example. So they're certainly growing a strong core of leadership guys who can kind of work together by committee. which at the same time has kind of forced them to not necessarily name a captain. But in my opinion, the captain role is still important, and I think it's important for teams to know who to go to, who's going to lead, and for some players, it can make a big difference in their motivation and how they play on the ice. You put that responsibility on some players, and it just means so much to them that sometimes it helps them work that much harder and take their game to an even another level. So for me, the next captain of the Toronto Maple Leafs, the best choice is Austin Matthews. He just signed a mega contract extension. You know he's going to be there for at least 5 more years. I think this would be the type of thing to motivate him even more. Of course, the only issue with Matthews so far in his career has been staying healthy and not missing time. Otherwise, his numbers would be even more incredible than what they've been. I don't think putting a C on John Tavares is going to motivate him any more than he's already motivated. He had an awesome first season in Toronto last year playing with Mitch Marner. First time in a long time he wasn't a captain for his team, and it obviously had no impact on his results. So I really don't think that putting a C on Tavares' jersey is going to make any impact on how that man plays. I think he's driven and motivated enough on his own that it would make no difference. He's also older enough and experienced enough that he can help Matthews and the other younger players on the team really evolve into being stronger leaders, really help them with the transition to having that responsibility. Obviously, dealing with the media in Toronto can be a little bit tough, and it's certainly a big part of being a team captain and able to deal with that. I think Morgan Rielly would be my second choice if Matthews wasn't the guy, but he could certainly wear an A. You could put a second A either on Marner or Tavares, whatever you decide to do. That's not overly important. I think putting the C on Matthews' jersey would really drive him even more. I mean, he's already an extremely motivated young guy and has been very successful, very productive, but I just think that would be the type of thing for him that would push him even further. I've seen enough in interviews dealing with the media. I think he can handle it. And to me, it's really his team, and they got to build around him, which they've done a great job with. And that's the choice that they should make when they're ready to name a captain in Toronto. So in my opinion, those are the next choices to be next captains of the 8 franchises that currently have a vacancy. As I said in the opener, I'd love to know what your thoughts are. Who would you select to be captains of these 8 teams? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments and we'll continue the conversation. If you're new to the channel, consider subscribing and turning on your notifications so you don't miss any future content. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it as well. I'd appreciate it if you did. As always, thank you for watching, and I will catch you next time.